What idiotic thing has your job done for the benefit of the employees? Title says it all. Essentially, the managers were all brought into the conference room, played team-building games, and had breakfast and lunch catered. This was because it was noticed that general employee morale was low and there was a high turnaround for the entry-level workers. What actually happened was most employees had to skip lunch, work overtime, and take on many extra tasks in order to make up for all of the absent managers. This made the entire staff bitter and create an us versus them attitude in the workplace. Any stories of poorly thought out workplace exercises? Story 1. At my firm, we used to have this CEO that felt really entitled, and he was a huge prick. The company headquarters was in a 3-story building with 2 stairways, one on each end of the building. His office was next to the stairway entrance on one end of the building. For some reason, he believed this was an executive staircase, and only he was allowed to use it. Whenever he found another employee in it, he would yell at them and threaten to write them up. So all employees had to use the other stairway regardless of where their office was in the building. Such a huge inconvenience. Well, we all had the last laugh. He goes on this great vacation to Europe, and little did he know that while he was gone, the board of directors had fired him. His company vehicle was removed from his property, his access to company networks was revoked, his key cards were deactivated, and his office was packed up and placed outside the building the morning he arrived. He was truly blindsided. He came in claiming his car was stolen, only to see it parked in the front ready for the next CEO. Ah, karma. I mean, to be fair, I don't think the CEO did that for the benefit of any employee other than himself, but that doesn't mean I didn't love this story any less. After all, how often do these responses rigidly stick to the prompt? I'm all for deviating if it means a CEO has a bad time. Seriously, I don't care what the prompt is. Stories of execs getting their comeuppance are always welcome. Story 2. When I was 20, I was the lead supervisor on a program evaluation contract supervising 45 employees. The project was finished when I was out of the office. I worked from 12 to 8 p.m. It finished around 10:30 a.m. that morning. My boss called and told me it was finished and everyone was going out to eat to celebrate. So I said, "Oh, I'll come in now, give me a few minutes." And she said, "Great, we need you to come supervise the other team who wasn't on that project while we go." So effing stupid. Everything at that job was stupid, including letting a 20-year-old develop an evaluation for a statewide program on green jobs just out of the blue. I made the whole thing based on a few Wikipedia articles. F it. It was really successful, and a lot of other states use it now, but I ultimately got fired for wanting to be paid the same amount as the other supervisor whose team didn't do as well as mine. But it was a boys' club, so I got fired. A-holes. Story 3. Every year, my hotel holds a staff holiday party at which door prizes are given away. Our main competitor had theirs a week before, and staff with friends and spouses at that hotel reported back to us about the party's door prizes. iPhones, iPads, mini fridges filled with beer or groceries. The grand prize? A week for 4 at any hotel in their chain, including airfare and meals. Our party came, and my company's crapulence was revealed. All the door prizes were free 3 nights at specific hotels in our chain, no airfare, nothing else. Crappy hotels in non-destination cities and towns. 3 nights free in a hotel you had no desire to see, in a city you had 0 reason to visit, and the prize winner had to cover their own airfare. Staff morale plunged to an all-time low when 1 month later, the managers all had their weekend advance on a 4-day weekend at a nearby 5-star resort, all expenses covered, including golf and sailing. Yeah, that seems about right. Sounds like you all need to get yourself a job at your competitor's hotel because yours clearly doesn't give a crap about you. Honestly, the fact that you all don't get free nights at hotels in your chain as just a standard benefit of your job is frankly insulting. Story 4. In college, I worked at a retail shop that did its timesheets by hand honor system rules. We had all been there a while and cared about the store quite a bit enough that we frequently worked overtime and marked ourselves down as having left when we were supposed to. Then our skeezy boss decided too many of us were ripping her off by being late and leaving early, so she implemented a clock-in system. Boy, did that ever backfire. We no longer willingly stayed late, nor did we come in early. Things stopped getting done to the same extent. Employees started grumbling more because they weren't trusted, so the owner installed a security cam webcam, trained on us throughout the store, and she and her on-again, off-again boyfriend would call the store in the middle of heavy customer traffic to complain we hadn't finished stocking some unpopular item and tell us to drop everything to go do it. We'd happily do it if we could get away for a minute, but often the two of us, or one of us working, was too busy manning the register, greeting, explaining the store, giving out samples to stock the item at that exact moment. We'd get hell for it the next day. I'd been there 3 years, and on my last day there, they fired my awesomely amazing manager and told everyone else not to tell me in case I refused to show up. I would have shown up anyways, but it says what they thought of their employees. They tried to call me several times after that. Story 5. I wasn't there, but this is the story I got for a meeting I missed. The company holds a meeting where people actually have to travel and get hotels in the home city, including the CEO. The meeting was something where the CEO was supposed to talk, state of the company, etc. Morale was generally low because they had been cracking the whip on everyone for the last 2 years. Everyone was working 10 to 16 hours a day, sometimes on weekends too, on salary. So the CEO starts talking, making his presentation, and towards the end of the hour, the hotel staff starts setting up chafing dishes and getting food out. Everyone is hungry. The Q&A period is prolonged for an extra hour because people keep asking dumb questions. So finally, it ends and everyone lines up for food. It's fettuccine alfredo or something, and it is quite disgusting after sitting in the dish becoming lukewarm after an hour. To top it all off, the CEO in front of everyone says, "I'm not eating that crap, it's full of carbs." He leaves everyone behind to go out to a real restaurant. Some of the executives stayed behind to eat with the employees because they knew what this douchebag had just done. The CEO did something similar during the company Christmas party several months earlier. He traveled from his home state to the state where most of the employees are, showed up for about an hour, then asks one of the younger salespeople, "Where are the good clubs to go for getting drinks and a decent dinner?" He then takes off for the rest of the night, leaving us to eat the dinner served at the party. I quit quite a while ago, and he was replaced about a year later. Unfortunately, I've worked under CEOs that were much, much worse. Okay, I think we can all agree that CEO was a real piece of crap, and frankly, didn't even deserve the congealed fettuccine you were all left to eat. What a dingus. But can we talk about another thing? Dear people at meetings and whatnot that prolong the meeting with asinine questions that could easily be addressed with a quick email or perhaps by just paying attention to the rest of the meeting, your coworkers don't like you, and every question you ask brings you closer and closer to their wrath. Story 6. Creating an on-the-second policy. You have to be at your desk exactly the second your workday begins. This has created an atmosphere where they find it really, really hard to get anyone to do anything extra. On the second the workday ends, everyone leaves. Before, we didn't care about a minute or two here and there. Our time clock through ADP is not calculated down to the minute. It's by the quarter hour. So it can be manipulated quite easily, which quite a few people do. If you have to be here at 8, if you clock in at 8:07, it marks the time as 8:07, but for purposes of payroll, it counts as being an 8 o'clock. Then when lunch comes around, let's say noon, they clock out at 11:53 and clock in at 1:07. Then when it comes time to leave, they clock out at 4:23. Essentially, they work half an hour less each day but get paid for that time. That's what happens when you treat your employees like crap. Similar thing happened where I work. When I started in the IT department, we had an awesome boss who created a great team environment. As long as we got our work orders and projects completed on time, he didn't care if we came in a few minutes late, took a long lunch, ran an errand, or left a little early some days. What actually happened was everyone was working 50 to 60-hour weeks and loved our jobs. Not only were we completing our projects on time, we were creating new ones that we wanted to do just for the fun and challenge of it. Then our boss left, and a new guy started to enforce and set new rules and restrictions on everything. More than half of our team has already left for new jobs in the last year. The morale is dismal, and we do the bare minimum to get through the day. One guy has his phone alarm set for 5 o'clock, and by 5:01, the place is dead. And now I'm looking for a new job as soon as I can find one. It really amazes me how many bosses have this kind of hyper-strict mentality, because time and time again, for decades, it's been shown to be just wildly ineffective. It's just such an indicator of terrible management. And while there might be a few outlier companies that have made that crap work, in general, it just ends up costing a company money and quality of work. It is just baffling to see how many bosses still cling to that sad, desperate need for complete control. Story 7. Casual passes. This is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen. You can be awarded or purchase a casual pass that lets you wear casual clothing anytime you like, not just Friday. If your manager approves. Oh, and if there's not a customer visit. It just strikes me as so childish. You can wear comfortable clothes today. Don't you feel rewarded? No, I feel manipulated and patronized. Maybe I'm just bitter. I work at a call center and did this crap. I was peed enough that we were not customer-facing, sitting at a desk, staring at a computer all day, and expected to wear business clothing. Then to top it off, they rewarded us with permission to wear jeans. Screw that job. Seriously. Story 8. They created a Facebook page and sent out an email with a link to everyone's work accounts, advertising it and asking everyone to like them on Facebook. Facebook is blocked at my work. Mine is doing the same. They want us to promote a product and even set up a game with links to Facebook and Twitter. I guess they expect you to participate from home or something. I just might win a free water bottle, fingers crossed. My company is more hostile with this type of thing. The marketing department actively searches for employees on Facebook and sends them friend invites. The HR department searches through employee Facebook accounts for photos and commentary to look for anything condemning the company or any sort of bad behavior in pictures, drinking, etc. They have a policy of firing employees for making the company look bad. You know what? F you right up your stupid effing a-holes. Story 9. Not really related to having a job, but I was knocked back from an internship at a world-leading insurance company last year because when you showed up, you looked a bit like an IT guy. Considering I was applying for an IT internship and my technical background is IT, I have no idea what this human resources goon was expecting. Edit. I was also the only technical person at the group interview. HR is terrible. When I was hiring here, my interviewer basically gave me tips to lie to HR to make it easier for myself. I've heard stories of HR wanted a senior programmer with 8 years of experience in a language that had existed for less than 4. While human resources is a valuable thing for a company to have, there are plenty of incompetent chuckle turds who find their way into those positions. How absolutely infuriating to have someone who sucks in a position that employees are supposed to rely on for so many things. Boy, I'm getting worked up this video. I'm glad I don't work in places like this anymore. Story 10. My company has an annual trip for people voted as MVP from each office location, plus executives and salespeople who make quota. The trips are usually quite fancy, all expenses paid affairs with tons of swag. Cut to the height of a great recession. We have our quarterly town hall meeting. The CEO stands there in front of a screen showcasing photos from this trip. I'm talking about pictures of people receiving fancy watches and going on helicopter rides. While these photos are showing, he gives a speech about tightening our belts, no raises that year, and all salaried employees having to take 2 weeks off without pay. With pictures of him and all the other executives in the background drinking champagne on a helicopter behind him, people were peed, to say the least. Story 11. When I worked at McDonald's, there was a month where they put a digital scale by the shake machine. We had to zero out the weight of a cone each time and make sure that every customer was getting exactly 5 ounces of ice cream. A cone with too much got thrown out. It's hard to appreciate the difficulty of making a cone, let alone a perfect one, and this just ended up being a massive waste of time and money. This is just stupid. It's to prevent waste, right? Well, I just wasted 6 ounces because there was only supposed to be 5. Oops. Story 12. My old company was having a morale problem. Me and my coworkers had been pulling serious overtime trying to get all the work done. For 2 weeks straight, we had essentially come in at 7:30 a.m. and left at 6:30 p.m. without taking lunch. Finally, after we had openly started talking about how peed we all were that we were doing these hours and we were still getting beat at for making tiny errors here and there, they decided to reward our department with lunch. When our lunch hour came, the four of us walked in to find all the food had been eaten by the managers and they had left us 2 egg rolls and a handful of fried rice. Morale had never been higher. Holy crap, I never thought someone could top my work lunch story, but I think you may have actually beat me. I worked for a high-end furniture and appliance store. It was a big sale day, and all sales employees, myself included, were required to work a 12-hour shift, and it was intensely busy. We were not supposed to leave for lunch, as the company was going to provide lunch for us. The lunch provided was damp baked potatoes with some sides like sour cream, chili, cheese, and chives. That's it. What's better is by the time my group got to go, there were no toppings, just plain baked potatoes. That was the lunch this highly profitable, owned by Warren Buffett company gave us. I told my boss I was leaving for lunch, and when she tried to tell me I couldn't, I said I was either leaving and coming back in 20 minutes, or I was leaving for the day. Her choice. I believe I had a burger that day. Story 13. Back when smartphones weren't super popular, my manager texted me some crap like, "Wow, any large pizza for just $10. Tell your friends to order now, blah, 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 corporate monster, blah." Then instructed me to pass it on to my contacts. I proceeded to use the good old fill the 10 receipt slot with the same contact and send it right back to her. I hit resend about 15 times, causing her phone to be unable to do anything but receive my messages one at a time 150 times. She didn't send me BS marketing texts to forward after that. Story 14. In my place of work, we have gotten extremely busy in the last few months. They expanded their stores into Florida. Instead of giving the employees much-needed/deserved raises, we got oranges. Yes, oranges. They thought they were being clever in Florida and all. Just made me angry. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.